a few weeks ago, I looked at what I considered were the best signatures for every character in the game. And this time, I'm going to be looking at what I think the weakest signatures for each character are in the game. But I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. So last time, I just gave my opinion, you know, good times, fun times. You know, you can agree, disagree, we'll talk about it. This time though, with the worst signatures or the weakest signatures, I also want to take a look at how I would improve them, what I would do to buff them to make them better, if they even need to be buffed at all. Because I think some of the choices are only being picked because every other signature in their kit is really good, and it's honestly a fine signature, it's just I had to pick one. So for Ada, I think her weakest signature is her Blaster's down sig. I just think that less utility than the side sig. I honestly, for the most part, think it's a worse version of the side sig. As for reversals go, it takes a while for her to actually jump back into position. It's a lot of active frames. It's not the easiest move to punish because of how far back she ends up moving, but the reward just isn't super big for it. This side sig is just so good, and it, like, if I'm standing here, I'd much rather do a side sig than do a down sig. I think how I would buff this move, I think I would give it a little bit of a buff, and honestly, I don't think it needs that much. It's a utility sig, it's not a killing sig, more than anything, so it doesn't need the force of this. But I do think it could just use a little bit more force, and that's all. Its hitboxes are also kind of crazy. But yeah, this is the sig you definitely see the least on Ava's kit, so that's the one I would buff. Alright, next up is Artemis. Now, Artemis is a little bit difficult to pick because I do think most of her signatures are actually really strong. So I'm just going to pick this Lance N sig because I was thinking of Lance down sig, but also, like, yeah, that. Its spike hitbox is very high, and it kills really early, so when it's useful, it's super good. So I'm just going to pick this Lance N sig as her weakest. I don't think it needs an improvement. I think all of her signatures are really good. If this was maybe a month ago, I would pick this Lance side sig, but this move got buffed, so that's active all throughout the jump. Like the Lord Brack sig, that's pretty similar, so yeah, Lance N sig, maybe her weakest, maybe it's Scythe down sig, I don't know, but I don't think her signatures necessarily need a buff. Alright, a Sory. Now, a Sory is a little bit strange because her signatures are also super good. If I had to pick one, I think it would be this Qatar side sig, and if anything, it's just because I think the down sig outshines it. And I think her sword signatures also outshine it. This N sig, obviously very strong. This down sig has a lot of traps, stacked killing option with guitars. This just has a bit more startup, a little bit easier to punish, but it also does have that brutal spike angle, so by no means a bad signature. A Sory, another one of those characters where like all of her signatures are really good. This move very difficult to punish. I don't think it necessarily needs a buff or anything like that. If it weren't for this force and this hitbox on the side sig, I might pick this, but this move is actually kind of insane. So, yeah. Alright, Azoth. Now, for Azoth, another one of those characters. Again, like, you already know all of these signatures are very strong. Azoth also one of the characters that's just gotten buffs to his sigs repeatedly. Like, this one especially has gotten recovery frames nerfed. Or recovery frames buffed, I guess, by being decreased over and over again. So, if anything, I'm going to pick this bow N sig, because just all of his other sigs are a lot stronger. I think it has a good amount of force. This second hitbox is really good. It's hard to punish from above, which is exactly what you want it to be. Yeah, just overall good signature. I think it's actually pretty balanced, and I don't think it's bad at all. It's just his worst / weakest of his kit, because everything else is good. Alright, on to Peraza. Now, Peraza, he is another character with very strong signatures, but he does have one outlier, which I think is this Blaster's side sig. I do think this move is outshined by Blaster's down sig, simply because they cover a similar area. I mean, this one does have a huge vertical hitbox like that, but this down sig is just insane, and so the utility out of this side sig, you don't really see it as much as this down signature. If I could also pick this N sig, doesn't have the most amount of force, and if you GC it, you just die, which is a fun fact. Let's see if I can show that off a little bit. I don't know, it doesn't really matter that much, but you just keep falling. The reason why I don't pick N sig is because it covers something that Peraza doesn't have, which is this like angle like right here, and it is pretty active for a while. You can see it doesn't have the most force. The reason why I don't pick this again, it's because this is something that Peraza doesn't have on the guns already, whereas this area is covered by down sig. So I think side sig is his weakest. I don't think it necessarily needs a buff. I think if the way that I would change it is change the hitboxing so that it doesn't hit like super far above like this. And then in compensation, maybe give it more force. But yeah. Alright, on to Brim. Now, Brim, good signatures all around. Yeah, you already know. I think if I were to pick her weakest, it probably would be this side sig. Even though I think this is a very strong move, I think it's outshined by this, which is quick, stacked, and everything like that. And then this down sig, which hits in a similar area, has insane force and also has the utility of dodging moves, whereas this has the utility of dodging moves if they whiff. It's active for a while, it's very strong. The reason why I pick it over all the spear sigs, for example, is because this does like 40 damage. This sig is super good, and this sig is super good. So it's another one of those. We're encountering a lot of them in the early alphabet of legends, but their signatures are just good. And the reason why it's the weakest is not because it's a bad move, it's because the other moves are just really, really strong. On to Bodvar. I think his weakest signature is his sword end sig. I think it's a fairly, like, okay, when I say weakest, by the way, or like worst, it's not that you should just never use them. It's the idea of like, okay, maybe the risk of throwing this move out is higher than the reward may warrant, but if it works, you know? It's not saying that like, okay, you should never use this move, it's just terrible. It's just the idea of like risk and reward. So I think this sword down sig is insane. I think this side sig has a crazy hitbox, and it's just like super solid all around signature. This end sig though, it's just risky. It has a lot of force, which compensates for the risk, so I don't think it needs to be changed at all. It's pretty good in 2v2, team combos, picks up stuff pretty well. It's just risky for what the reward is. It's fairly easy to punish if you're in the right position. And I just think his hammer sigs also outshine it. So, yeah. Don't think it needs a change, personally. Now, Caspian. I think Caspian's weakest signature is his Gauntlet's down sig, because this move has like no force at all. This end sig, so Caspian in general doesn't have the most force on his sigs, it makes sense, he's like a thief, quick character, not designed to be super strong. This down sig though, has like no force. You compare this to Azoth bow down sig, and it feels like this move never kills. Like, this Mordex is in red, and he's still in red, you know? Like, the side sig doesn't have the most range, but it's a reversal, it can kill earlier. This down sig just doesn't have that much force. The way I would change it, it wouldn't even be to increase the force. It would just be to make the angle, like maybe more horizontal. Because you see if it hits close, it hits them vertical, but maybe a more consistent horizontal angle, like that one. Which would make them maybe use an extra jump and put them in position to punish harder. It's a reversal, so it's more of utility than the killing sig, so I don't think it should just kill significantly earlier. I just think that maybe, you know, maybe it could use a little bit of an angle adjustment to be more consistent. You see if it hits at like the very edge, it does hit more horizontally. If I can space this move. Alright, there we go. Yeah. It has a lot of active frames. It's not the worst move in the world by any means. It's just a little underwhelming, I guess. Yeah. Alright, Cassidy. I mean, you know I have to pick it, right? I was talking about risk reward, like, I have to pick this move. Like, have you seen Cassidy's sigs? Literally all of them are insane. Like, even this one that's like, okay, unless you have a super hard read or the opponent messes up or is not really paying attention, there's also beeping in the background, I don't know if you can hear that. You're gonna get punished for throwing this out. But it does a ton of damage, and like, it has a huge hitbox. It's just like, okay, am I gonna say the lasso is the worst? Am I gonna say this is the worst? Am I gonna say any of her blasters are the worst? No, obviously it's the one that's gonna get you punished if you whip it. But that's not to say the sig's bad. Like, I wouldn't change it in any way. I think if this move was buffed, it would be like crazy. If we're really talking things, I might say, okay, we give it a rework where you're just like spinning in place. I don't even know. Like Ragnar axe down sig, but you're just spinning in place like this. I don't know. I don't think this move needs a change. It's just very niche is how I would describe it. Alright, Cross. Mr. Crossman. I'm a little tempted to do the Hand of God. But I do think this actually does have some utility. Like, you can use it over here, and you won't get punished. So I'm going to give it to this Blaster's N-Sig. And the reason why is just I think it's outshined by having a jump recovery anyway that covers the same spot and is much less risky. Like, I don't know. It's just a bit too easy to punish for what it is. I think, like, this has a ton of force that justifies it. This is, like, stacked. Or, not stacked, but it's, like, double-sided, which justifies. This, you can just walk up to him and punish him. And, the holding the attack button to keep the attack out, kind of like the Ulgrim Lance Downsig and the Ragnar Axe that I was talking about earlier, just doesn't have as much utility as those do. Like, you can hold it on the edge like that. But this, you're just open up to getting sared. So, I think it's his weakest signature. Maybe I'd give it a little bit more force to justify, like, jump recovery being covered by the same spot. But in all honesty, I think it's a fine move. It's just a little bit overshadowed a lot of the time. It's good for, like, catching dodges you gotta read, because it's active for so long. Diana. Yeah. It's this move. And even though this move is, like, super strong, like, the amount of force it has can be, like, insane. Like, that Mordex is just dead. It's just completely overshadowed by a move that's very similar, which is this one, which is just so much better. This bow downsig is so much better than the blaster downsig, like, in every way. Harder to punish, easier to hit, vertical hitbox that's bigger. It's not like it hits stacked. Whereas this one you actually have to have a lot more space. Like, part of what's strong about the bow downsig on Diana is that you can stand right at the very corner and then hit it stacked. With this move, you need a lot more space to hit it, which just gives you a lot less flexibility and makes it more likely for them to bounce on the stage. But again, when it hits, it's really strong. I would not buff this move. I think it's already good. It's just overshadowed. Now, Dusk. Dusk, I think his weakest signature is the Spear Downsig, and I just think it's, again, I've been saying this a lot, but it's overshadowed. This move, super fast, super good. This move, you can't really react to it, you can't really punish it. But this is like, it feels almost good. It feels almost really good. Like, if this spear was a little bit further out, it would be so much more threatening. And if it hit maybe a little higher up, it would be so much more threatening. But like, yeah. Like, you throwing this out, it's just like, why not just downlight? Or why not just N-Sig? Because it's not far enough to justify the risk, and the reward isn't, like, big enough. Because it kind of locks you in for a while. I feel like the way I would change this move is just make the spear come out further, and it's, like, a great sig. I think that's all that needs to change about it. It feels good, like, it hits pretty hard. It's just, the spear is not far enough. That's how I would change it. Yeah. Because Dusk already controls a lot of space. Like, this move is so quick. This move is so quick. Just a little bit more space. That's all he needs, I think. Alright, Ember Bow. Or, I mean, on Ember, her bow sigs are great. I think it's this Guitar N-Sig. This move just feels like it doesn't work, like, half the time. I don't know. It almost feels like you're worse off for going for it than not going for it. I mean, obviously that's not true. If you land it, you're better off than you were before. But it almost never kills. The hitbox is really strange. It leaves you wide open. If you look at a comparable sig like Mordex Scythe N-Sig, like, you can just see the difference. I don't know. I just think the sig isn't the strongest. Again, it's not like every sig is bad that I'm talking about. It's just like, okay, this move is super risky to throw out for what the reward is, and I probably won't be using this more than like once in a few games unless I have like a read or something. If anything, I just increase the force. I make it kill a little bit earlier. Ember's like glass cannon type of character, so to have a sig like this that doesn't really kill is a little bit strange. So I think I just give it extra force. Yeah. Not too much. All right, we don't want to see this all day. We have enough Qatar 360 spinning with Nair. We don't need another one with NC. Okay, maybe just a little bit more though. All right, Fate. Fate. Every single one of her signatures except for this one is insane. I think this sig just, I don't know. It's just a little underwhelming. It does a good bit of damage. Like, it does like 25, I believe. Maybe I should double check that. Wait, how do I? There we go. It's been a while, right? Oh, it does 22. Never mind. Okay, I think it should do more damage. That's definitely a change. But it's one of those teleporting SIGs. It has a pretty sizable hitbox. The problem is it's just reactable if you're ready for it. I mean, okay, that's how reacting works. If you're more ready for it, you can react faster. But you know what I'm saying. It has enough of a Q, and it doesn't go far, like super far like the Kouji down SIG. So I would either buff this in like one of two ways, or maybe both ways, but like lesser, if that makes sense. Like rather than giving one big buff or one sizable buff, like two smaller buffs. The first thing I would do is change it like Dusk's spear and just make it go longer, like go a little bit further. The other thing I would do is change the angle so that it hits horizontal. It seems really strange that this hits straight up. Like if it just hit like 45 degrees, wait, no, that's not it. It hit 0 degrees. If it hit 180 degrees, I'm just saying numbers. If it hit straight, I think it would be a lot more satisfying to hit, rather than hitting straight up. And I also think if it went a little further, it might get a little more utility, and all that. But yeah, Fate, amazing signatures. Just one little bit of a stinker. This is a literal shotgun. Like, this move is insane. Alright, we're not talking about that one. We're moving on to Nash. Nash is weird, because even though his signatures are, like, strange, like, I can't say this sig is bad, because it has so much utility. Like, even though you can, like, react to it, I don't think it's, like, bad. This sig is insane. This sig is insane. So, I'm just gonna give it to the spear down sig. Because even though, I know, look at this. That is disgusting. That is insane. I just don't think it's as good as his other moves. The way I would change this, because this move can like also spike and send at really interesting angles. So it definitely is more unique compared to some reversals, and you can like move forward with it with a dash and momentum. The way I would change it is not to nerf it. I would just like rework it so that it doesn't have this giant huge hitbox where you just can't contest it at all, and just have the slap on the ground, kind of like Wushang, like Wushang's spear side sig, that kind of hitbox, and then speed it up a little bit. I think that's how I would change it, because right now it's just like, when it's out, it's just super oppressive. Like I don't even know. It's just weird. It just feels a little outdated, I guess, is what I'm going for. Like, it has a humongous hitbox, and then it's just weird to hit. And it feels like the way that it balances out having this ridiculous, absurd hitbox is by not being, like, super, I guess, like, universally useful, I guess. It's a weird way of describing it, but, yeah, that's how I would change it, personally. You may completely disagree, and that's totally okay. I'm not a smart guy. I don't know. I don't know if that isn't clear. I think this spear down sig is Hattori's weakest. It's just a matter of risk reward. Like, it does 28 damage, which is good. It has a huge hitbox, which is good. Like, it's definitely got strengths about it, but it's also got weaknesses, which is that you're just vulnerable for a really long time. How I would change it? I don't know if I would. And the reason why I don't know if I would is because when it's useful, it's really good. Like, when someone has no options, you can do this and guarantee a kill. If someone's like lurking around, you can do this and guarantee a hit. If you've got a dodge read on them, it covers like a ton at once. In 2v2, it locks them in forever, so following up is really easy. I just think it's her weakest because sometimes, like, if you can't just throw this out, you know? Whereas you can just kind of throw this out. And like this one, you can just kind of throw these out, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think I would nerf it. I don't think I would buff it necessarily. Maybe a tiny bit more force. I don't know. Maybe a tiny bit more damage. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Isaiah. Now, Isaiah has had a series of buffs, especially to this move, which I would say is like terrible just a little while ago. And his blaster side sig as well. But they got buffed a lot. Like, this move has no recovery frames now. So I think I'll just give it to the cannon side sig, because I just don't think it's as good as a blaster side sig, which is a very similar move. I don't think it matches up to these, especially not this one. I think this down sig is super strong. Maybe I could also pick this move because it doesn't have the most reach, but like, you see that force? Like, that's kind of insane. So I just think that Like, even though this may be, like, I don't know, less obviously useful, or just less generally useful, I think this one is just more underwhelming. Maybe I just give it a little bit more force. I think it's probably fine, but yeah, I just think it's it's not a bad move at all. Like, it has very low recovery frames for what it is. I don't know. I just don't think it's as strong as other SIG. That's why I'm picking it. Yeah, that's all. For Jala, she's another one of those characters. Like, what do you even pick? What do you even pick for Jala? All of her SIGs are crazy. Like, this one's less crazy now that that's not true, but it still has a ton of force. Like, let's get you off stage so I can charge this. Okay, never mind. It still has a crazy amount of force. This move, talking about crazy amount of force, this move I think is one of the best SIGs in the entire game. So I'm not gonna pick the sword ones. This move hits stacked and has a huge hitbox and has dash impulse. This move kills insanely early, so I guess I have to pick this side SIG. Like, I guess I just have to. Do I think this move is bad? No. Do I think this move needs a buff? I don't think so. I just think that it's not. I don't even know. Ask me on a different day, I might pick something else, but yeah. I guess axe side SIG. This move is still crazy though. Alright, Jiro. I think Jiro's weakest signature, again, this is a little bit different. If you asked me 2 months ago, I would say this move, but they actually buffed it to add force to it, to make the risk more rewarding, because this move is super risky. It's like, it's very slow, it's punishable. So I'm gonna give it to the end SIG, because it's just, like, you see it doesn't pick up. Like, I'm right here, it doesn't pick up. The idea is it picks up, like, both grounded and aerial, but a lot of the time it just doesn't pick up. It just seems like a weaker version of Val's sword end SIG. How I would change it is, it might be a little weird, but maybe increase this initial hitbox a little bit. Oh, I don't have hitboxes turned on, that's why. So that it picks up more grounded. But honestly, I would just change it so that he doesn't do the slash. Like, I would just make it, if it doesn't hit, he just jumps and that's it. I think that would be a neat way of, like, reworking it a little bit so that it's more useful. It's like a 2-hit move. Like, downlight, if you just do this, it doesn't do the slash. Similar with this, you just jump up. And then you're just here, and then you fall. And then you can jump out of it. And that way, it's less risky to throw out, it's not insanely oppressive. Like, increasing the startup of this, or increasing the hitbox to be huge, would just make this move really, really difficult to fight against, and very, very frustrating. But if he just jumps up, then it's just less punishing, and while also being less oppressive. So I think that's how I would change it. Just make him jump up, and we're chilling. Alright, for Kaya, her weakest signature, I think, is her spear side SIG. I just think it's overshadowed. The reward isn't super big, it doesn't have that much force, it doesn't go very far. The problem is that, like, reacting to this move is insane. Like, this jump, the sound is like, yeah, it's very difficult to react to. It's just, it feels a little underwhelming, which might have to do with the visuals, who knows. It just doesn't feel super rewarding to hit, and doesn't feel super good to miss. Like, it does have quite a few recovery frames. How I would change it, I think I'd just give it more force. I think the recovery frames are fine as long as it's balanced out by just killing maybe a little bit earlier. Kaya is a low strength character, so you don't want her to kill like super early, but maybe a little bit earlier for this one. It is a spear, like a grounded spear move, that a grounded spear signature, which is very useful. If you watch the other video, having a grounded spear move is really good, just because it gives spear a kill option that it doesn't normally have. Because spear can't kill him, like, on the ground unless you're already in the air. So I just give it more force. Yeah. Kouji. You already know Kouji. Like, he's one of those characters. I'm gonna give it to this, because it's just not as universally good as this end SIG, which denies space in front of you insanely well. This side SIG, which kills super early and is very quick. You already know all of his bow SIGs, especially this one. So I'm gonna give it to the sword down SIG. Do I think this move is bad? I don't think it also. I don't even think it needs a buff. I think it's completely fine as is. It's active for a good amount of time. It goes like the perfect distance that you want it to. I just think this SIG is really good. It's just more niche than his other ones, but that doesn't mean it's bad. You can also do stuff like this, where you like trick people and make them think that you're gonna teleport, and then they may back up, and that gives you some space. Cool signature. I think it's very well balanced, all in all. It's like enough time to react, but also enough time to hit if you trip them up, you know? I think it's a great sig. Very well balanced. For Jake here, it's gotta be the car. I mean, I love Core, I love Jake, I love this signature, it looks really funny. But let's go to hitboxes for a sec. Let's take a look at this little boy here. Not a very great hitbox. Let me actually switch over to Core himself because maybe that might make it easier to see it in context with the actual original animation of the signature rather than, you know, being a beanball. So as you go into the ball, it's like your body inside the ball, but then also like you're as vulnerable as the ball itself. The thing is though, like, alright, let me go back to Jake because Jake is just better. When it hits, it's not like it's bad. It's just like, it takes a lot. Like, you're active here for a while, the hitbox isn't huge. What I'm saying is it's not easy to hit this move. And the reward for hitting it isn't huge. It's not bad reward. This move can definitely kill early. It's just, oh, Jake's gotta, he's looking kind of, alright, we're gonna, yeah, it's just not huge reward for the sig. So I just give it a, like, I don't want to change it fundamentally. I just give it less recovery frames. Like, typically what we've seen Brawlhalla do, BMG do, is that moves that have a ton of active frames that can be hit in the middle of it, think something like Terrace's Axe side sig, for example. The way that they've been changing it is instead of just making it like, just kill super early, and then keep everything exactly the same, they've been making it so it has not a lot of recovery frames because it's active for so long, and I think that's how I would change it. I just reduce the recovery frames on this move because it's active for so long, and that's a way of like reducing the risk while keeping the reward, and that balances out that ratio a little bit more. So yeah, that's how I would change that one. Lin Fei, yeah, I think I'd give it to this Qatar side sig. Wow, I've killed this bot 55 times. How long have I been here? I'm sorry, I'll keep things a little bit, I'll try and rush things a little, not rush things. Alright, I'm just wasting time by talking. You know what I'm trying to say, I'll try and keep it more succinct. It just doesn't kill super early, and it's active for a while. But it does have the thing that I was talking about, where like, it's hard to punish this move. Like, it doesn't have a lot of recovery frames. It's kind of like this, where this move is active for a while, but punishing it is difficult. So, I just think it's the weakest because it doesn't have a super big reward. Like, I think this cannon side sig is very similar, but it has a bigger reward for hitting. I think it kills earlier. Would I change it? I don't think so. I don't think I would change it. Because it's still good. It's like, it has the change that I already would have suggested for it, I guess. So I don't think it needs change. I think it's a balanced signature. I mean, it's not like super overpowered, super oppressive broken or anything. But it's like when you hit it, you feel like you get the reward that you want out of like this kind of character archetype. And when you whiff, you feel like, alright, well, I'm playing like a super fast character. I don't have many recovery frames. And that's what it feels like. I think it's fine. For Lucien, I would give it to this Qatar N sig. I think that his blaster sigs are all really good. Like maybe the other one I would consider is this blaster side sig, but I think it being a reversal gives it enough utility to justify like me picking this Qatar N sig. The reason why I pick it is I just think this having insane force, even if it's reactable and maybe predictable, and also this huge hitbox justifies it, and I think this move is just crazy. So I'm picking the Qatar N sig. This move is actually really good, and I wouldn't change it at all. It picks up grounded, it sets up a perfect wall. It's like that Kouji sword N sig. It's just you like lift yourself up into the air. Because of the hurtbox movement, it's hard to punish. Has a good amount of force for what it is. I just think this sig is like balanced. I think this sig is really good. It's punishable while it's active. It doesn't have the huge, like it's not huge in front of you. You kind of have to have a read to hit it. But when you hit it, you feel like you get the reward out of it. When you whiff it, like you don't have that much recovery time. It's not like absurd. And while it's active, you can hit during it. I think it's a good sig, great sig. I don't think it needs to be changed necessarily. For Mirage, yeah, Mirage is hard because all of her signatures are also really good. I would give it to this Scythe Ensig, or Spear Ensig, I think, because I think this move may overshadow it a little bit, and I think this move definitely overshadows it. So I'm just gonna give it to this move. The unique like hurtbox movement that you get can be really tricky. Like you flatten yourself out. If you notice your character model where you're vulnerable is like that circle, and I flatten myself out so you can duck under things. It has a good hitbox. I think this move is good. I don't think it needs to be nerfed or changed or anything like that. I'm just picking it because their other SIGs are also just really strong. So, yeah. There's that. There's Mirage. Alright, we're getting to the M's. We're getting to Mordex. I think his weakest signature has got to be this Gauntlet's Ensig. Definitely overshadowed by his Gauntlet SIGs. Like if we're talking about being overshadowed, he has two of the strongest Gauntlet SIGs in the game. Not the two strongest, because I think Petra definitely has him beat there. But this Gauntlet's down SIG is crazy. Side SIG, insane force. But this end SIG, it just hits at a weird spot for when it is. Holding it isn't the most useful. Like they definitely made it so because of its unique mechanic of holding it allows you to go grounded. It's not the strongest, but it's also not the weakest. Like its hitbox has a lot of priority. You can see that it definitely has some force. Like it's definitely surprising if we let's see. Let's turn this core up to like 140 damage and just make them jump. Like that's a surprising amount of force right there. So I think the way that I would change this has already been done, which is okay because it has a little bit of startup and because it hits at kind of an awkward spot. Let's like make it have a little bit of force to compensate for the risk. So I think this SIG is balanced. I think it's fine. Maybe the force is honestly a little too much, but it's alright. It's alright. It's alright. Just think it's his weakest out of all of his SIGs. And Queen Nai is a similar story, where I think her weakest signature is one that doesn't need to be changed. Because yeah, it's high risk, but it's also high reward. And it's this guitar Ensig. Let's make you stop jumping. It's gonna make me go crazy. This move, you already know like about the risk. High startup, high active frames, you can be punished. But when you hit it, like this move kills. Like this move kills really, really early, especially if you GC it, because the further you are to the top, the more it'll just kill. It can hit at angles like that. Huge hitbox when you release the snake. But I just don't think it's as strong as these. Like Queen Nai signatures in general have the theme of slow but powerful, and this is kind of like the epitome of slow but powerful. So I don't think it needs to be buffed. If I think it should be reworked, then I would make it kind of fast like Jiro's, but then not kill early at all. Is like how I would change it. But I wouldn't change it like that. That's if I had to, I guess. I think it fits her archetype pretty well. So, yeah. There we go. For Nyx, it's honestly like difficult. Nyx's signatures are insane. Like, this move is insane. This move is insane. This move does 1,000,000 damage and it has a huge hitbox. This move kills surprisingly early. This move kills incredibly early. This move is super good on the ground. So like, what do I even pick? I don't know what to pick. So I'm gonna pick this one. Because I think this one is just a little bit better. But don't get me wrong. This Scythe down SIG is insane. I would not change it. I would not buff it. I might even nerf it, like, make it do less damage. That's when you know. When I pick a weakest signature and I say I might even reduce the damage, that's when you know this character has good SIGs. Onyx. Newest character. So picking a weakest signature you may think might be difficult, but no. I think it's just down SIG. And the reason why is just like her signatures are actually ridiculous. Like, this SIG is... That killed. That killed. Oh, that killed. Oh, this move is Mordex pre-patch. This move is Mordex down SIG pre-patch. This SIG is just like solid. This SIG is just solid. Actually, just good. I wouldn't even say it's just solid. I would say it's great. This SIG is just mediocre. It's not bad. It's just not amazing. It's a bit risky, but it has a big hitbox. It doesn't kill the earliest, but I think the reason why they do that is because it has the big hitbox. I don't think I would change it. Maybe I would give it a little more force, but I don't think it's bad. It can also spike, which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it needs a buff necessarily. Okay, maybe a little bit more force. Maybe a little bit more force. Yeah. Orion. Oh, I can already see the comments. You already know. Orion's another one of those characters, like, what do I pick? I'm not gonna pick this one, because it just kills insanely early. I'm not gonna pick this one, because this hitbox is actually ridiculous. Ridiculously crazy. I'm not gonna pick this one, because this is just super solid all around, really good sig. I'm not gonna pick this one. Like, I'm not gonna pick this one, so I guess I'll pick this one. I guess. The reason why I don't want to pick down sig is I just think its utility makes up for the fact that it doesn't kill. I think this sig has insane utility. It's super fast. This is like the perfect reversal move. Denies so much space, jumps back a good amount. It just feels perfect. It keeps them in the corner. This sig you already know. So I guess I'm picking the side sig. I guess I am. The reason why I think this lance or spear side sig is better than the lance one, number one is because it hits like that. But number two is because lance, like, it has sidelight recovery, so the incentive to go for a side sig is less. Like, the reward is less because it's not something that you already can do for less risk. If that makes sense. Whereas the spear, you just can't kill on the ground from that position, unless you have a down sig or you have that side sig. So that's why I'm picking the lance side sig. I don't think I would nerf it at all by any means. Petra. This is my character. This is my main, my favorite character in the game. Wow, that rhymed. Alright, we're gonna... Moving on. All of her gauntlet sigs are crazy. Let's move on. Orb. Her 3 orb sigs are her 3 weakest sigs. I think this end sig is fine. Risk reward, I think this sig is pretty balanced. High risk, high reward. Or, I wouldn't say high risk. Maybe like medium high risk, medium high reward. This sig is like kind of bad. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's terrible. It just doesn't, I don't know, it just feels a little underwhelming. But I'm gonna pick the down sig anyway, because, I don't know, it just doesn't feel that good. It doesn't quite have the startup that you want out of something like super, I don't know, super spiky like this. Think Rayman Axe down sig as a comparison. I don't think this move should be as good as Rayman Axe down sig, just for reference. But, like, that's the kind of power that this kind of move would, like, I would like to incite the fear with it. Obviously, as a Petra main, I'm biased. Like, I don't want to play against the Rayman Axe down sig on Petra, just to be clear. I just do think that it's a little bit awkward. The way I would change it, though, is not by force, it's not by startup. It's like, okay, if they want to keep it a little bit slower, I understand that, that's fine. And it actually does go a lot further down than a lot of people expect. So I catch people off guard with that. The only thing I would change is that when you're charging it, it goes down as far as it does uncharged. Because the reason why it doesn't go down as far, you'll notice, okay, the explosion is like, let's say 60% up the wall, but then, oh, I just threw it away. Here the explosion is like almost at the bottom of the wall, and the reason is because Petra like flies higher and higher with it. So the only thing I would change is that like it always explodes in the same spot. That's just how I would change it. It makes it more intentional with your use, and also makes charging it more valuable. Because right now the charged version, in my opinion, is worse than the uncharged version, because the uncharged goes further down. That's how I would change it. Yeah. Not a huge buff. I don't think it needs a huge buff. I think Petra is like extremely strong. Yeah, that's how I would change it. For Ragnar, I think it's the axe down sig. It's just, it's a utility sig. It doesn't have the strength of his end sig. It doesn't have the strength of his side sig. This move kills so early. It hits at that kind of weird angle of like upward, but not really killing upward, kind of just like a knock you away upward, because if you get hit to the corners, you'll die the latest, just based off like distance and Pythagorean theorem, you know, math. Would I change it? Maybe I'd make it kill a little bit earlier, but I also like want to take into consideration like, yeah, how fun is it to play against this? And if you get hit by this and just keep dying over and over again, like, I recognize that, especially people that are like signatures. I don't think that the game should only be balanced for top level. That might be a bit controversial around other like higher level players, but I don't think it should be only balanced around top players. I think it should be primarily balanced against top players, just like based off balance theory. I might make a whole video on this, but also taking into consideration like, yeah, how effective is this at lower levels when people are less comfortable getting off the map? It's a lot stronger. So I don't necessarily think it needs a buff, But if it were to get a buff, I'd like to see a little bit more force, is how I'm putting it. Yeah. For Rayman, oh man, where do we go with Rayman? If I had to pick, it would be his Gauntlet Ensig. I think it's fine though, it does a bunch of damage. This move, it was recently buffed, so I'm not going to pick it. I say recently, but it was a few months ago. But, you know, I didn't have a computer for a while, so... It's a lot harder to punish now, you can hold it for a lot longer, so you can time it more effectively. So I'm just going to give it to Ensig. If it hit grounded, I think this move would be actually insane, but it doesn't. I think it's overshadowed by all of his other Sigs. Am I going to buff? Do I think it needs a buff? No, I don't. If I were to give it a buff, what would I do? I think I would make it hit grounded, but have less damage and force. Do I want to do that? Absolutely not. I think that would not be very fun to play against. It would be like Hammer and Air hitting grounded and doing 1,000,000 damage, but on gauntlets, so I don't think that should happen. I think it's fine. I think it's a bounce sig, maybe even a bit strong. I think the reward is higher than the risk, for sure. I just don't think it's his strongest move. But don't get me wrong, this move is crazy good. Sir Roland, it's Lance Ensig. I just think this move is underwhelming. It doesn't kill early at all. It has an audio cue unless you're playing King Knight, which I think King Knight should get an audio cue because I don't think you should be able to buy a skin and not have an audio cue. That's another topic. It's, like, you can react to it. Even if you hit it, it doesn't feel that rewarding. Yeah, I don't know. It has a huge hitbox, and I think that's why they compensate for it, and it has hurtbox movement, which is also why. How I would change this move, I would reduce the hitbox, make it less oppressive, and then make it better in other aspects, like make it have more force to compensate for the amount of time it takes to come out, or make it do more damage, or something like that. I don't think it should have this huge hitbox, and I think the reason why it's a little bit underwhelming is because it has it. So I think a more healthy version of the move would be, instead of having that huge hitbox that's like super oppressive, but then everything else about the move is underwhelming, make the other stuff good and reduce the hitbox. That's how I would change it. Scarlet. What do I pick? I guess I pick this, just because it's not as... I guess it's the same reason as the Orion, I guess. You have this, so this is less useful. But this move just kills so early. Like, how am I gonna pick it? I don't know. I don't know. You already know. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Sentinel. I think it's his hammer down sig. It's just overshadowed again. It's another case of being overshadowed. I think Sentinel is like sleeper insane. And this down sig is just like, it's a reversal. It's strong. I think it's balanced. I think it's fine. I don't think it needs a buff necessarily. It's just not as universally useful as this or this. For Sidra, I'd give it to Cannon Downsig. It's kind of another one of those, what was the other one that I picked? I don't even remember. But where it feels like it just hits at a, oh, it was Caspian Cannon Downsig, or Gauntlet Downsig. Where I feel like if it hit at a more consistent angle, or a different angle, it would be different. Like, you want this move to spike, but then it hits at that like 70-degree angle. I don't know if that's 70 degrees. I didn't take geometry. That's a lie. I did take geometry. I was just bad at it. But like right there, I feel like it'd be cool if it spiked. It also has a huge hitbox, so maybe that would not be fun to play against. But it just feels weird. Like, if it still is gonna hit at the angle that it does, I think maybe it should just have more force. Because it just feels a little underwhelming, I guess. It's not a bad move. Like, its hitbox is good, its movement is good. You see it picked up there on the corner there, for like not the super high risk. I just think maybe it should kill a little earlier. That's all. Or if it does get like angle adjustments, it should have less force, but then also be able to spike. That's how I would change it. One of those two ways. For Taros, I think his weakest signature is really hard to pick. It's a really weird thing to pick. But I think it's this. And the reason why is because, like, this move is risky, but if you hit it, you are killing them. Like, they are dead. And you already know about Ensig. Super cheesy. Downsig is just stacked axe move. Pretty good. This move is good. This move is another one of those, if you hit them, they die, and its hitbox is ridiculous. But this one is just good because it does 1 billion damage, which is, I feel like, a little bit unhealthy. Like, the move is strong not because it's like something that Hammer doesn't have or like a cool option that's like unique to play against. It's just like a big brute move, and then you can do this, and then this, and then they're in yellow, and then they're in orange, and then they're in red. So I don't, honestly, I think the way I would change it might be to just make it 1 slash, 1 thing, kind of like the Jiro move, and then if it lands, you do the second one. And that way it just feels less, like, oppressive, the hitbox that sucks you in, but then also more useful. Like, you don't always have to just, okay, I do this move and I'm just stuck here, and then I get punished from above. Or maybe I just suck them in and then they take like 40 damage and like the other player isn't having a good time. So more so just having a front slash, or a front, like, I don't even know what to call this. That's like, still fits Terrace's archetype, and is punishable and can lead to big damage, but maybe not as much damage and maybe not as oppressive of a hitbox. For Thatch, I think his weakest signature is his Blaster's Ensig. I think it's overshadowed by this, because this has a ton of force and a big hitbox. I think it's maybe overshadowed by Downlight. I think it's overshadowed by the utility of Cannonballs, and I think his Sword Sigs are really good. So I'm picking Ensig. Honestly, it feels a little bad to play a character like, I don't know, someone with really cool guns like Diana, and then play Thatch, where 2 of his signatures kind of feel the same, which is Ensig and Downsig, or Ensig and Sidesig. How I would change it, I'm honestly not quite sure, because it feels good. Like, when it hits, it kills early, it's a reversal. I really don't know. I don't even know if it needs a change. I just feel, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I just don't think it's as strong as the other SIGs, I guess. I don't know if I would change it. There you go. You can tell I'm like reaching a low energy point. It's been 50 minutes. We're almost done. For Thor, you already know how good Thor is. Oh, this is another case of like silent signatures with a crossover. I'm not a fan. I think it's the Orb Down Sig because his other SIGs are just better. I think it's cool, it's unique, it can spike. It actually has a pretty good hitbox with this initial lightning strike, and I don't think I would change it. I think this SIG is fine. I just don't think it's as strong as his others. Maybe Hammer Ensig is another one to pick, but I think this move is good. So yeah, there's Thor. Ulgrim. I kind of have to pick this, even though I think it's good. Okay, this is also like the chainsaw. I think this hitbox. I can talk about crossovers a lot, about I think how they should be more obvious about certain things. But that's also like being a gamer and not being an artist. This move kills early. This move, even though it doesn't kill super early, it has utility. Picks up at a good spot. Like, even though it's slow on like when you press the button, the actual time you have to react between like when you actually see him move and when the hitbox comes out is like not that much time. Also this. So I don't think it's the Ensig. And his axe sigs are all good. So I'm gonna give it to the down sig. It's a utility sig, it's one of the holding moves. I don't think I'd change it at all. I think it's fine. I think it can be frustrating to play against if it's hard to play around. I think it can also like get in people's heads. A good mind game move. I think it's fine. Just not as strong. Not as strong. Val, it's sword down sig. This move is actually, fun fact if you're not aware, this is like back before I even used to play. Every character only had 1 signature, and they also had every weapon. And I think that's maybe why they're called signature moves. And for sword, the down sig for everyone was this breakdance. And then they added it into Val's kit when they ended up designing her. So this sig, I think, is her weakest. Do I think it's bad? I don't think it's bad because it does 33 damage, but this move also never kills. So you rarely ever see it, really, at least at higher level gameplay. Because the reward, it's pretty high reward, you're stuck here for a while, and then it almost never kills. So you'd want to be using it at like maybe lower damage levels, so that you're at less risk of dying, and then you can do 33 damage. But it just isn't as useful as her other SIGs. I think I would increase the force a little bit, but not too much. She's kind of a low strength character, so I don't want her killing super early with like a slow move, and then you're just so afraid to get hit by it, and it's super oppressive like that. just kill a little bit earlier. For Vector, I think his weakest sig is this Lance down sig. For no other reason than it just takes a really long time. Like, is it terrible? It's not terrible. The movement, the utility, it's good. When it hits, it just kills. But it just takes a really long time. It has so much startup. So I would just change it to... I say just. Like, any of this is easy. Like, oh, okay. I'm gonna do a bit of an intermission here. I probably should have said this at the beginning when, like, not 90% of the people left. But, like, please don't use this as ammo to, like, attack BMG. Like, oh, why haven't you already done this? Or, like, wow, this move is so stupid. Like, why haven't they nerfed it? Why haven't they buffed it? I need a buff for my character. No, that is not the point of this video whatsoever. It's more so just looking at different characters, looking at how maybe the game can be more fun for everyone, including, like, both the mains of the characters and the people that are playing against it. Because we don't want to buff this move to just... Like, you can take the theory of, okay, it has slow startup, so we're going to compensate and give it a billion force. But then it's just not fun to play against. Like, even if you can react to it, you always have to wait for just the cheese of getting hit by it. How I would rather change it is faster startup, but then lower force. That's how I would change this move, for example. But again, also keeping in mind, I'm a boy. I'm just a mere boy. And there are definitely reasons and stats that I am completely oblivious to that would go into balancing things. Things aren't as obvious as they may seem to us common folk. You know. Alright, Volkov. Another one of those characters. Man, there's a lot of them. When I first set out making this video, I thought I was going to suggest a lot of changes for weak signatures and how to buff them, but the more I think about it, the more a lot of signatures are good, and this is an example of one of them where even though it's not as fast as this, and like doesn't have the double utility of that, and not as fast as this, it kills. Like, its base fixed force is crazy, and then you add in damage, and this move kills so early. So like, would I buff it? I don't think so. Honestly, I might even nerf it. Like, I might just make it not have the strength it has, the force it has. Maybe make it do more damage in compensation for that. But yeah, I think this move is crazy. And I don't necessarily think it needs a buff, even though I consider it Volkov's weakest. And I guess that kind of goes into the point of what I was talking about earlier. Alright, for Vrax, I guess I'm gonna pick this. Because I think this move is insane, and it gives Vrax something that other gun characters don't have. And I think this is really strong because it hits stacked and vertical and at that 45-degree angle. By the way, fun fact, Vrax is just like laser Peraza, Peraza end sig, Peraza side sig, and then Peraza down sig minus the roll. Fun fact. Anyway, so I'm gonna give it to this because I just think his other sigs are insanely strong. And this one's also just, like, super strong and kills really early. How I would change this move is I would probably reduce the hitbox. Like, you see that? Yeah, I would reduce this. And then make it, like, maybe do more damage. Or have less recovery frames. Maybe it doesn't need less recovery frames, it's low Vrax. It probably doesn't. I would reduce that hitbox, though. Oh, I would use that hitbox. That's a beta hitbox if I've seen one. Wushang, Spear down sig, I think is his weakest move. Again, it's not a bad move. It just has less utility than the others. It's a little bit slow. You can react to it. It has some startup. It doesn't hit like down super low. Like if I use this move right here and it hit like where I am right now, I think it would be really, really strong. But it doesn't, and I don't think it should either. When you hit it, it feels rewarding, especially when you get that spike hitbox like that. On stage, its reward is a lot lower, which I think is fine. There's moves that are specialized in different areas, like bow burst, sword down sig, and I think this move is good. I just don't think it's as insane as this or as this. So there's Wushang. I wouldn't change it. I would just acknowledge that it's not as universally useful, but it can also do that. So, yeah. Alright, we're nearing the end. We're at Zol. I think it's this. Oh, I forgot that does that with the crossover. I was gonna say it looks very not intimidating, but then, yeah. So we're gonna once again take control of this bot, because he's just charging with a little arm and it looks funny. This move is like fine though. It kills early. It does like 27 damage. I had to save myself there because I was gonna fall. It's just the hitbox is kind of small. You move kind of slow, like especially when you compare it. Like you see this hitbox. Do you see the Lord Vrax hitbox and you see this? Not that those two should be compared. They're very different moves. I don't even know why I said that. That was a dumb comment. But you compare this to a move like this, and it's just really clear. Like this move is just like how the axe side sig would feel if it was like insane. Because I think this side sig is actually super good. So I think this is his weakest sig, or her weakest sig if you're playing Amethyst, because the speed of it doesn't make up for the tiny hitbox and the recovery frames. But it feels like how a 10 strength character, potentially 10 strength character, should feel with their signature kit. It hits hard. You just grab them and toss them. I think it's fine. It's a reversal too, so you don't want reversals to have a ton of force because you're using them. Like, it has the potential to be used from a bad position and turn it into a good position, so you don't want to make it have a billion force. That's how you get Diana's bow down sig pre-patch when it killed in like light yellow if you hit it off stage, and it still kind of does. But we're moving on. For Miko, I think her weakest signature is her bow down sig. If you want to look at how like oppressive orbs have the potential to be, you look at hammer down sig. It's just this move doesn't feel as useful because of the amount of time it takes to come out, and also it's only on the ground. Like you can use a GC like this, it's actually pretty useful like that, but it just feels less oppressive, and it's also easier to punish, like way easier to punish. This move is fine, this move is fine, all the other moves are good. Would I buff it? I think if anything, it would be interesting to see a different orb layout or a different flame layout, but I don't know if I would want that. I think it's a fine move, and it has its utility. It's just not universal, used 24/7 in neutral like this move. So yeah. All right, we're on Z. Is this the last one? This is the last one. It's Zariel. I think I might make a video playing Zariel in the future. I actually did my game crash? Oh, my game crashed. I guess I've had training mode open too long. We're back. Yeah, so my game crashed and then yeah, we're not gonna talk about it. I guess it's a good timing that it only happened at the end. What I was saying is Zariel is super fun. I think they are super underrated, and I might make a video playing them in ranked or something like that, maybe talking a little bit about why I think they're really strong. Anyway, point is, I think their weakest sig is the bow down sig. I just don't think it's as good as any of their other sigs, and it's like as simple as that. I think this is a good sig. This is like, it's kind of like the Petra orb down sig. Like, yeah, maybe it's not always useless on the ledge all the time, but when you hit it, it's good. And you can also GC it to cover a big area, because bow ground pound is kind of skinny. And yeah, also all of Zariel's bow sigs spike, which is fun fact for all y'all. So you want to make it so they don't bounce off stage and everything like that. Anyway, this is probably the longest individual session video I've ever recorded, so I'm gonna close it off here. Those were my thoughts on the weakest sigs per character. As you noticed, a lot of them I prefaced with the fact that they're still good and everything like that, and also how I would change them if I were to change them at all. Alright, that's it for me.